Daniel had survived 3 lunar rotations aboard the Covenant, and in that time he'd learned one fundamental rule: never make eye contact with royalty. The Generation ship housed 40,000 souls in its rotating habitats, all fleeing a dying Earth, and somewhere in that mass of humanity floated Queen Orla Vex III, last surviving heir of the European Collective, keeper of the genetic databanks, and the single most politically volatile person in the fleet. He'd never expected to meet her in the cafeteria of Habitat Ring 7. The mess hall operated on a strict rotation schedule, feeding 3,000 workers per shift. Daniel worked waste reclamation, unglamorous but essential, and his shift fell during the graveyard cycle when most of the ship slept under simulated darkness. The cafeteria lights ran at 60% capacity, casting everything in a dim, energy-efficient glow. He grabbed his protein ration and nutrient shake, then scanned the rows of tables for an empty seat. That's when he saw her. She sat alone at a corner table, her face unmistakable even in the low light. The Collective had broadcasted her image enough times during the departure crisis that every person aboard knew those sharp cheekbones, that distinctive auburn hair kept short in the military style, those unsettling pale green eyes that seemed to calculate the worth of everything they observed. Daniel froze. Protocol dictated he should retreat, find another table, perhaps another cafeteria entirely. Queens didn't eat in Ring 7. They didn't eat in public mess halls at all. They certainly didn't sit alone in near-empty cafeterias at 300 hours ship time. He turned to leave. Her hand shot out and grasped his arm with surprising strength. "Sit right beside me," Orla said. It wasn't a request. Daniel's training in waste reclamation hadn't covered royal protocols. He sat. "You're wondering why I'm here," Orla said, not looking at him. She pushed a piece of synthetic meat around her plate with her fork. "You're wondering if this is some sort of test, or if I'm running from something, or if perhaps the pressure of command has finally cracked the royal veneer." "I wasn't," Daniel began. "Yes, you were. Everyone does." She finally met his eyes. "What's your name?" "Daniel Care, Waste Reclamation 3rd Class." 3rd Class, how appropriately middle tier. She took a bite of her food, grimaced. "Do they serve this garbage to everyone, or is someone punishing me specifically?" "It's standard ration, Your Majesty. Synthesized protein cultured from the hydroponics bay. It's nutritionally complete." "Nutritionally complete," she repeated, as if tasting the words. What a magnificent euphemism for tastes like recycled engine lubricant. She set down her fork. "Daniel Care of Waste Reclamation, I'm going to tell you something, and you're going to listen, because in approximately 47 minutes I'm going to be arrested, and I need someone outside the royal circle to know the truth." Daniel felt his appetite vanish. "Your Majesty, I don't think." "The Covenant is dying," Orla interrupted. "Not immediately, not catastrophically, but dying nonetheless, and the ship's council knows it. We've been bleeding reaction mass faster than projected. The Bussard ramjet isn't collecting enough interstellar hydrogen to sustain our acceleration. At current rates, we'll fall short of Proxima Centauri by 3.2 light-years. The number hung between them like a death sentence. 3.2 light-years. They'd drift forever in the void, a tomb ship carrying 40,000 frozen corpses into the endless night. "Why are you telling me this?" Daniel asked. "Because I proposed a solution and the council rejected it." Orla's jaw tightened. "The genetic databanks, my responsibility, my inheritance from Earth, contain the templates for 17 million species. Plants, animals, microorganisms, humans. The full diversity of Earth's biosphere, encoded in quantum storage and kept in cryogenic stasis in the ship's core." "The Genesis Archive," Daniel said. "Every child learned about it in basic education. The promise that humanity wouldn't journey to the stars alone, that they'd resurrect Earth's ecology on whatever world they found." "The Genesis Archive masses 400 metric tons," Orla continued. 400 tons of frozen genetic material, storage equipment, and computational substrate. If we jettisoned it, recalculated our trajectory, we could reach Proxima b with 17% margins. Tight, but survivable. Daniel understood immediately. They refused. They called it heresy. Counselor Zhang said I was advocating for the murder of Earth itself. Dr. Okonkwo said I'd lost my moral compass. Admiral Torsten claimed I was unfit for my duties. Orla's voice remained steady, but Daniel saw her hands shaking. They voted to remove me from custodianship of the archive. The formal arrest warrant will be issued at 3:47 hours. I'll be charged with dereliction, possibly treason. But you're right, Daniel said. The words came out before he could stop them. 40,000 living humans versus genetic templates. It's not even a question. Orla studied him with those calculating eyes. You understand utility functions. Good. That's rarer than you'd think, especially among people who have never had to make life-or-death decisions. She pulled a data chip from her pocket and slid it across the table. This contains my full proposal, including trajectory calculations, resource allocation models, and contingency plans. The Council's decision is final, but someone needs to preserve the record. Someone they won't think to silence. Daniel stared at the chip. Why me? Because you work waste reclamation. You understand that sometimes you have to let go of things to survive. You process the ship's refuse, transform the unusable into the essential. You know that sentimentality has no place in closed systems. Orla stood. And because in 47 minutes I'll be in custody, and you'll be exactly what you appear to be, a third-class technician who happened to share a meal with the wrong person at the wrong time. What am I supposed to do with it? Survive, Orla said simply. When we fall short of Proxima, when the ship's population realizes we're going to die drifting in interstellar space, someone will remember that there was another option. Maybe they'll forgive me posthumously. Maybe they'll curse my memory. Either way, the record should exist. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing, Daniel Care. In my position, I've had access to projections most passengers never see. The trajectory models, the resource consumption curves, the population sustainability indices. She looked back at him. We're going to lose approximately 8,000 people when the truth comes out. Suicides mostly. Violence some. The psychological impact of certain doom tends to destabilize social cohesion. 8,000, Daniel repeated numbly. Plus the original 40,000 when we run out of supplies in the void. 48,000 total, all to preserve 17 million species that exist only as data. Orla's expression was unreadable. Tell me, from a waste reclamation perspective, does that seem like an efficient exchange? She didn't wait for an answer. She walked out of the cafeteria with her back straight and her head high, every inch a queen, even in exile. Daniel sat alone with the data chip burning a hole in his consciousness. Around him, the cafeteria's lights hummed at 60%, conserving energy for a journey they wouldn't complete. He thought about efficiency, about closed systems, about the mathematics of survival. He thought about what it meant to reclaim something from waste, to transform the unusable into the essential. He pocketed the chip. 43 minutes later, the ship's communication system chimed with an official announcement. Queen Orla Vex III had been removed from her duties pending investigation into charges of dereliction and conduct unbecoming. The message was dry, bureaucratic, scrubbed of emotion. Daniel returned to his quarters in Ring 7, where the walls were thin and the air recyclers rattled and 40,000 people drifted through the void, carrying ghosts they couldn't afford to keep. He wondered if queens dreamed in their prison cells, and if so, what equations haunted their sleep.